The United Earth Council chamber was built inside a mountain in the Swiss Alps, protected by hundreds of meters of rock and defensive shields that could withstand a direct nuclear strike. 20 representatives from Earth's unified government sat in a circular arrangement, their faces illuminated by holographic displays showing data from across human space. Commander Kyle Morrison stood at the center podium, his dress uniform crisp and his presentation prepared. Beside him, Admiral Patrick Hughes sat with his arms crossed, his weathered face showing the skepticism Morrison had expected. The Admiral was 70 years old and had spent his entire career preparing for threats that never came. He was not eager to go looking for trouble. "The coalition is losing the war," Morrison said, his voice echoing in the chamber. "Our intelligence indicates they have lost 40% of their territory in the last decade alone. Casualty estimates are in the billions. At their current rate of decline, the coalition will collapse within 20 years. A holographic display showed star systems changing color from blue to red as Vrexian forces conquered them. The visual was stark and undeniable. "And what concern is that of ours?" asked Council Representative Helen Park from the East Asia sector. "Humanity chose isolation for good reason. We nearly destroyed ourselves the last time we involved ourselves in galactic conflicts." Morrison had anticipated this argument. "The last time we were one faction among many, fighting over resources and ideology. This situation is different. The Vrexians are not interested in negotiation or coexistence. They want total domination. Every species they encounter faces the same choice: submit or die." "Let me be direct, Commander," Admiral Hughes said, standing up. "You want us to reveal ourselves after 3,000 years of hiding. You want us to enter a war that is not ours, against an enemy that does not know we exist. You want to risk everything we have built on a gamble." "I want us to do what is right," Morrison replied. "We have the power to stop a genocide. We have technology that could end this war, and we have evidence that the coalition has already discovered traces of our existence. That beacon on New Terra was not supposed to activate, but it did. How long before they find more evidence? How long before the Vrexians do?" The council members murmured among themselves. Morrison pressed his advantage. "If we wait until we are discovered, we lose the element of choice. We lose the ability to control how first contact happens. But if we act now on our terms, we can shape the outcome." Lieutenant Grace Holland stepped forward, activating another display. "We have drafted a minimal intervention protocol. 3 destroyers would conduct reconnaissance in the war zone. No engagement unless absolutely necessary to prevent immediate loss of civilian life. We observe, we assess, and we report back. Low risk, maximum intelligence gathering. And if your ships are detected?" Representative Park asked. "If the Vrexians see our technology and want it for themselves? Our quantum stealth systems are undetectable by current galactic technology," Holland explained. "We have been monitoring their transmissions for years without being noticed. The risk of detection is minimal." "Minimal is not zero," Admiral Hughes pointed out. "And once we fire a single shot, once we reveal ourselves, there is no going back. Earth becomes a target." Morrison met the Admiral's gaze. "Earth is already a target, sir. We just do not know it yet. That beacon is broadcasting human frequency patterns. Eventually someone will investigate. Eventually someone will find New Terra. And when they do, they will follow the trail back to us. The question is not if we will be discovered, but when and whether we will be ready." The council chamber fell silent. Morrison could see the weight of the decision on their faces. 3,000 years of policy, 3,000 years of safety, all hanging in the balance. Representative Carlos Martinez from the South American sector spoke up. "I have reviewed the intelligence on the Vrexian military capabilities. Even with their numbers, they would struggle against our defense fleet. Our shields alone could withstand everything they have." "Defense is one thing," Hughes countered. "But the commander is proposing we leave our territory. Every light year we travel from Earth is one more light year our supply lines must stretch. One more light year we are exposed. That is why we start small," Morrison said. 3 ships, 3 of our best crews. We observe this war firsthand. We assess whether intervention is truly necessary. And we establish protocols for contact with coalition forces. If the situation is manageable, we withdraw. If it is as bad as our intelligence suggests, we return with recommendations for the Council." "And who would command this mission?" asked Representative Park. "I would," Morrison said without hesitation, "with Lieutenant Holland as tactical officer and Lieutenant Danny Price as chief engineer." The EDS Valiant, EDS Defender, and EDS Guardian, 3 destroyers equipped with our latest technology. We can be ready to launch in 72 hours. Admiral Hughes shook his head. You are asking us to gamble our future on your judgment, Commander. No, sir, Morrison replied. I am asking you to trust that we trained for this. The Earth Defense Force was not built just to guard our solar system. It was built to protect humanity's interests wherever they might be. Right now, our interests include not being discovered by accident and not allowing a genocidal empire to continue unchecked on our doorstep. The council members looked at each other, silent conversations happening through glances and subtle gestures. Finally, Representative Park spoke. I call for a vote. All in favor of authorizing Commander Morrison's reconnaissance mission? 12 hands rose. 8 remained down. The measure passed by the slimmest of margins. The Council authorizes your mission, Commander, Representative Park announced. But understand this, you are to observe only. Engage only if civilian lives are immediately threatened. Do not reveal more about humanity than absolutely necessary, and if the situation becomes untenable, you will retreat immediately. Is that clear? Crystal clear, ma'am, Morrison said, trying to keep the relief out of his voice. Admiral Hughes approached Morrison as the council session ended. You got your mission, Commander. Now do not make me regret supporting you in the final vote. Morrison blinked in surprise. Sir, you voted for this? Someone needs to know what is really happening out there, Hughes admitted. And if we are going to be discovered anyway, better we control the circumstances. But Kyle, listen to me. You have 3 ships against an empire of thousands. Your job is to watch, not to play hero. Bring my ships and my people home safely. That is an order. Understood, sir, Morrison said, saluting. As Morrison left the council chamber, Holland fell into step beside him. We really did it, she said quietly. After all these years of watching from the shadows, we are actually going out there. We are, Morrison confirmed. Now comes the hard part. Living up to the legends, Holland smiled. The legends say humans were unstoppable, adaptable, resilient, ready for anything. The legends also say we nearly destroyed ourselves through war, Morrison reminded her. Let us hope we learned from that mistake. 70 hours later, 3 ships launched from the dark side of Earth's moon, their quantum drives engaging in perfect synchronization. They slipped into faster-than-light travel, heading toward a war zone where legends were about to become reality. The galaxy had no idea what was coming, and neither did humanity, not really. They were about to discover if 3,000 years of preparation was enough to face what waited in the darkness between the stars. The warning alarm screamed through the bridge of the Starwind as plasma fire tore through its shields. Captain Varix gripped the armrests of his command chair, his 4 eyes watching the tactical display with growing dread. 3 Vrexian warships were closing in, their weapons charged and ready to deliver the killing blow. Shields at 15%, his tactical officer reported, her voice steady despite the fear Varix could see in her expression. We cannot survive another volley. Varix had known this patrol mission near the edge of Coalition space was dangerous. The Vrexian Dominion had been pushing deeper into their territory for months, conquering world after world. His small frigate was no match for 3 heavily armed cruisers. He had hoped to stay hidden in the asteroid field, but the Vrexians had somehow detected them. Prepare to send all data to Coalition High Command, Varix ordered. Include the coordinates of that signal we detected. They need to know what we found. His crew worked quickly as another blast rocked the ship. Varix thought about the strange beacon they had discovered just hours before. It had been broadcasting from deep in uncharted space, from a region everyone called the Dead Zone. No ship that entered that area had ever returned, and most spacers considered it cursed. But the signal had been different from anything Varix had encountered in his 40 years of service. The beacon had used an ancient frequency, one that matched records from thousands of years ago. Records that spoke of a species called humanity. Varix had studied those old texts during his academy days. They told stories of humans who had once traveled the stars, who had possessed strange abilities to adapt and survive in impossible situations. The texts described them as warriors and peacemakers, scientists and artists. But most scholars dismissed these records as legends, stories created to give hope during dark times. The galaxy had known many dark times. For 300 years, the Vrexian Dominion had been at war with everyone else. The insectoid warriors showed no mercy, conquering species after species. They enslaved those they found useful and exterminated those they did not. Dozens of civilizations had fallen to their fleets. The coalition of free stars had formed in response, uniting the remaining free worlds in a desperate defense. But they were losing. Every year the Vrexians took more systems. Every year more refugees fled their homes. Every year hope faded a little more. Message transmitted, his communications officer confirmed. Coalition High Command has received our data. Good, Varric said quietly. He looked around his bridge at his crew, people he had served with for years. They deserved better than to die in this forgotten corner of space. It has been an honor serving with all of you. The final Vrexian volley struck the Starwind with devastating force. The shields collapsed instantly and plasma fire cut through the hull like a blade through paper. Varric saw the view screen fill with white light, and then there was nothing. 3,000 light-years away in a solar system marked on no star charts, alarms of a different kind were sounding. The monitoring station on the dark side of Earth's moon had detected the transmission from the dying coalition ship. Lieutenant Grace Holland sat at her console, her fingers flying across the holographic display as she analyzed the data. Commander Morrison, you need to see this, she called out. Commander Kyle Morrison crossed the operations center in 4 long strides. At 42, he was one of the youngest commanders in the Earth Defense Force, but his record spoke for itself. He had spent the last decade monitoring transmissions from the wider galaxy, watching the war between the Coalition and the Vrexians unfold from humanity's hidden position. What have we got? Morrison asked, leaning over Holland's shoulder to study the screen. A Coalition ship was destroyed near the edge of their space. Before it died, it transmitted data about a signal they detected. Sir, the signal matches human frequency patterns, old patterns from before the withdrawal. Morrison felt his pulse quicken. The withdrawal had happened 3,000 years ago, when humanity had deliberately erased itself from galactic awareness. After a devastating war that nearly destroyed human civilization, Earth's leaders had decided to step back from the galaxy. They had hidden their worlds, advanced their technology in secret, and watched. Always watching. Show me the location, Morrison ordered. Holland brought up a star map. A blinking marker showed where the signal originated, deep in what the Coalition called the dead zone. Morrison recognized the coordinates immediately. That was where the colony of New Terra had been established during humanity's expansion age. New Terra had been one of the first worlds abandoned during the withdrawal. The beacon must have activated automatically, Morrison said. Some kind of timer or sensor, maybe. After 3,000 years, it finally woke up. What do we do, sir? Holland asked. If the Coalition investigates, they will find evidence of human presence. Our secret will be exposed. Morrison straightened up, his mind racing. For 3 millennia, humanity had remained hidden, building their strength and technology in isolation. The Earth Defense Force now possessed ships and weapons far beyond anything the current galactic powers could imagine. They had quantum drives that could cross the galaxy in days, adaptive shields that could withstand incredible damage, and weapons that could crack planets if necessary. But they had stayed hidden because the United Earth Council feared another catastrophic war. Better to remain unknown, the Council argued, than to become a target or get dragged into conflicts that were not humanity's concern. Morrison had always disagreed with that policy. He had read the intercepted Coalition transmissions, seen the reports of Vrexian atrocities. Entire species had been wiped out while humanity watched from the shadows. How many lives could they have saved if they had acted? I need to brief Admiral Hughes, Morrison said. This changes everything. If the Coalition finds evidence of humans, they will search for us. And if the Vrexians learn we exist, they might see us as a threat. Or an opportunity, Holland added grimly. Another species to conquer, Morrison nodded. Prepare a full report. Include all intelligence we have gathered on the current state of the war. Casualty figures, territorial losses, everything. The Council needs to understand what is happening out there. As Holland worked, Morrison walked to the observation window. Beyond the reinforced glass, he could see Earth hanging in space, blue and green and beautiful. Humanity had built a peaceful civilization in their isolation. They had created wonders of technology and art. They had learned from their mistakes. But Morrison knew that peace built on willful ignorance was fragile. The galaxy was burning, and humanity had the power to make a difference. The question was whether they had the courage to step out of the shadows after 3,000 years of hiding. The ancient beacon had been found. Soon everyone would be asking questions about the mythical humans, and Morrison suspected that humanity would finally have to answer. The only question was how. The EDS Valiant dropped out of quantum drive at the edge of the sanctuary system, her stealth fields active and her sensors sweeping the battlefield ahead. Commander Kyle Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the tactical display with growing horror. What he saw was not a battle. It was a massacre. "Status report," Morrison ordered, his voice tight. Lieutenant Grace Holland worked her console with practiced efficiency. "We have 37 coalition ships attempting to defend the planet. They are facing 68 Vrexian vessels. The coalition fleet is heavily damaged. Their shields are failing across the board." "And the planet?" Morrison asked, though he already knew the answer would be bad. "Sanctuary Prime. Population 12 million, mostly refugees from other conquered worlds. Long-range scans show thousands of civilian transports trying to evacuate. They will not make it in time. The Vrexian fleet will break through the defensive line in approximately 8 minutes. Morrison clenched his jaw. 8 minutes. In 8 minutes, millions of innocent people would die while humanity watched from the shadows. This was exactly what he had feared. Exactly what he had tried to explain to the Council. The Vrexians did not care about military targets. They wanted complete destruction. "Sir, the Defender and Guardian are in position," Lieutenant Danny Price reported from the engineering station. "All 3 ships are ready on your command." Morrison had his orders. Observe only. Do not engage unless absolutely necessary. But what did absolutely necessary mean when millions of lives hung in the balance? How could he justify watching genocide happen when he had the power to stop it? "Show me the Vrexian flagship," Morrison said. The main view screen shifted to show a massive dreadnought, easily 3 times the size of any coalition vessel. Its hull was dark red, almost black, with weapons arrays covering every surface. The name translated from Vrexian came through as the Crimson Fang. It hung at the center of the attacking fleet, coordinating the assault like a predator directing its pack. "Holland, what are our chances if we engage?" Morrison asked quietly. Holland did not hesitate. She had already run the calculations. "Against their entire fleet? We are outnumbered 20 to 1, but sir, we have technological superiority. Their weapons will struggle to penetrate our shields. Our railguns can punch through their armor like paper. If we coordinate our attack properly, we can cripple their command structure before they adapt." Morrison watched another coalition cruiser explode on the tactical display. He thought about Admiral Hughes's orders. He thought about 3,000 years of isolation. He thought about the Council's caution and their fears. And then he thought about 12 million people who were about to die. "All ships drop stealth fields," Morrison ordered. "Activate combat shields and charge all weapons. Today we stop hiding." The 3 human destroyers materialized in the middle of the battlefield like ghosts becoming solid. Their sudden appearance caused immediate confusion among both fleets. The coalition ships hesitated, uncertain if these unknown vessels were friends or enemies. The Vrexian fleet began redirecting their weapons, identifying the new arrivals as potential threats. "Broadcasting on all frequencies," Morrison said. "This is Commander Kyle Morrison of the Earth Defense Force to all ships in this system. Vrexian forces, you are hereby ordered to cease your attack on civilian targets and withdraw immediately. This is your only warning." The response from the Vrexian flagship came quickly, translated by the ship's computer into English. "Unknown vessels, you have entered a Vrexian military operation. Identify yourselves or be destroyed. We do not recognize your authority or your flag." "Then let me make it simple," Morrison replied. "We are human, and we do not tolerate genocide. Last chance to withdraw." There was a pause. Morrison could imagine the confusion on the Vrexian bridge. Humans were supposed to be a myth, a legend from old texts. They were not supposed to appear in the middle of a battle with warships that looked nothing like any known design. The Vrexian commander made his choice. "Fire on the unknown vessels. Destroy them." 20 Vrexian cruisers turned their weapons on the 3 human destroyers and opened fire. Plasma cannons and missile batteries unleashed devastating volleys that would have obliterated any coalition ship. The bridge of the Valiant shook slightly as the shields absorbed the impact, but the defensive fields held easily. "Shields at 98%, Holland reported calmly. "Their weapons are ineffective against our defensive matrix." "Then let us show them what effective looks like," Morrison said. "All ships engage at will. Target their weapon systems first. I want them disabled, not destroyed." "Not yet." The three human destroyers moved with a grace and speed that seemed impossible for vessels of their size. Their quantum maneuvering thrusters allowed for instant course changes that defied conventional physics. The Valiant swept through the Vrexian formation like a blade, her railguns firing with pinpoint accuracy. The railgun rounds traveled at a significant fraction of light speed, guided by targeting systems that could track hundreds of objects simultaneously. Each shot found its mark. Vrexian weapon batteries exploded in showers of debris. Shield generators overloaded and failed. Within 90 seconds, 15 Vrexian cruisers were dead in space, their offensive capabilities completely neutralized. The Coalition fleet, which had been preparing for annihilation, suddenly found themselves with breathing room. One of their cruisers, the Horizon, opened a communication channel. "Unknown vessels, this is Captain Lisa Bernard of the Coalition ship Horizon. We do not know who you are, but thank you. How can we assist?" Morrison made a split-second decision. "Captain Bernard, focus on evacuating civilians. We will handle the Vrexian fleet, and as for who we are, we will explain later. Right now, we have work to do." The Vrexian flagship, the Crimson Fang, began moving forward, apparently deciding that if lesser ships could not handle the humans, overwhelming force would. Its massive main cannon began charging, a weapon capable of cracking a planet's crust with a sustained bombardment. "Holland, I need firing solutions on that dreadnought," Morrison ordered. "Specifically, I want their main drive disabled. Price, prepare a full missile volley. Let us introduce them to human engineering." The Defender and Guardian joined formation with the Valiant, the three destroyers moving in perfect coordination. They had trained together for 5 years, and their crews operated as a single unit. 48 missiles launched simultaneously from the three ships, each one guided by its own miniature AI capable of independent decision-making and evasive maneuvers. The Vrexian point defense systems tried to intercept the missiles, but they were designed for conventional ordnance. Human missiles could dodge, could alter course in fractions of a second, could even communicate with each other to coordinate their attack patterns. 39 of them reached their target. The Crimson Fang shuddered as explosions rippled across its hull. The massive ship's main drive flickered and died, leaving it drifting. Its weapons were still active, but without maneuvering capability, it was now a stationary target. "This is Morrison to Vrexian flagship. Your main drive is disabled. Your fleet is in disarray. You can continue this fight and watch your ships be destroyed one by one, or you can withdraw now with your lives. Choose quickly." The Vrexian commander was silent for a long moment. Morrison could see the rest of the Vrexian fleet hesitating, waiting for orders. They had come here expecting an easy victory over a broken coalition force. Instead, they had encountered an enemy that could swat their ships aside like insects. "We will withdraw," the Vrexian commander finally said, his voice filled with barely contained rage. "But this is not over, human. The Dominion will learn of your existence. We will return in force. You have made an enemy today." "We already had an enemy," Morrison replied. "We just did not know it until we saw what you were doing out here. Now go before I change my mind about letting you leave." The Vrexian fleet began a ragged retreat, their damaged ships limping away while the Crimson Fang was towed by 3 of its escorts. The Coalition fleet remained at full alert, still not entirely certain what had just happened. Captain Bernard's voice came through again. "Commander Morrison, we owe you an explanation. And frankly, we owe you our lives. But first I must ask, you said you are human. From Earth? The Earth of the old legends?" Morrison took a deep breath. This was it. 3,000 years of secrecy ending in a moment. "Yes, Captain. We are from Earth, and humanity is very real. We have been watching the galaxy for a long time. We apologize for remaining hidden, but circumstances forced our hand. We could not stand by and watch innocent people die." "Then the legends were true," Bernard said, wonder in her voice. "Humanity exists. You really exist." Morrison looked at Holland, who gave him an encouraging nod. "We exist, Captain. And we have a lot to discuss. But first, let us help you finish evacuating those civilians. We can talk once everyone is safe." As the 3 human destroyers moved to assist the Coalition evacuation efforts, Morrison sat back in his command chair. He had disobeyed his orders. He had revealed humanity to the galaxy. He had started something that could not be stopped. Admiral Hughes would be furious. The Council would demand explanations, but 12 million people would live to see another day. And somehow, the news of humanity's intervention spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Within 3 days, every coalition world knew that the legendary humans were real and had entered the war. Within 5 days, the Vrexian Dominion knew as well, and Warlord Crix, supreme commander of all Vrexian military forces, was not pleased. Crix stood in the command center of his fortress world, watching holographic displays that showed the humiliating retreat from Sanctuary Prime. His exoskeleton clicked against the metal floor as he moved, his compound eyes studying every detail of the battle. 3 unknown ships had appeared and crippled a force of 68 warships. 3 ships. The shame of it burned in his mind. "Explain to me," Crix said, his voice a chittering growl that his translator rendered into the common galactic language, how 3 primitive ships defeated an entire fleet. His intelligence officer, a smaller Vrexian named Thex, shifted nervously. "Warlord, the ships were not primitive. Our analysis of the battle data shows technology far beyond anything in current use. Their shields absorbed our weapons fire with minimal damage. Their weapons penetrated our armor as if it were not there. Their maneuverability exceeded all known physics models." "And their origin?" Crix demanded. "They identified themselves as human from Earth. Our historians have found references in ancient databases. Humanity was a spacefaring species approximately 3,000 years ago. Records indicate they withdrew from galactic affairs after some kind of internal conflict. Most scholars believed they went extinct." Crix turned to face his officer directly. Clearly, they did not go extinct. They hid. They built their strength in secret, and now they have chosen to oppose us. This cannot be allowed to stand. If other species see that the Dominion can be challenged, our empire will fracture. "What are your orders, Warlord?" Thex asked. Crix made his decision instantly. He had not conquered 40 star systems by being cautious. "Assemble Strike Force Prime, 250 ships, every available dreadnought, cruiser, and destroyer. We will find this Earth and we will destroy it. We will make an example that the galaxy will never forget. No one opposes the Vrexian Dominion and survives. Sir, we do not know where Earth is located. It is not on any current star charts." "Then we will follow the trail," Crix said. "Begin with the coordinates where that ancient beacon was discovered. The humans must have left some trace of their presence. Find it and prepare the fleet. We launch in 10 days. On Earth, the reaction to Commander Morrison's actions was mixed. Admiral Patrick Hughes stood in the command center beneath the Alps, watching the live feed from the returning human destroyers. They were 2 days out from lunar orbit, and already the Council was demanding Morrison's presence for an inquiry. Major Nicole Perry entered the command center, carrying a data pad with the latest intelligence reports. At 38, she was the head of Earth's long-range sensor network, responsible for monitoring threats across light-years of space. "Admiral, we have a problem," Perry said, her voice tense. "Our deep space monitoring stations are picking up massive fleet movements in Vrexian space. It looks like they are assembling a strike force. 200-plus vessels all heading in a direction that our analysts believe will lead them toward human space." Hughes felt his stomach drop. "They are coming for us, it appears so, sir. They must have analyzed the battle data from Sanctuary Prime and decided we are a threat. This is exactly what the Council feared would happen." Hughes nodded slowly. He had argued against Morrison's mission, had warned that revealing humanity would make them a target. And now his worst fears were coming true. But he also knew Morrison had been right about one thing. They would have been discovered eventually. At least this way, humanity had time to prepare. "What is our defense posture?" Hughes asked. Perry pulled up displays showing Earth's military assets. The home fleet consists of 320 warships of various classes. We have orbital defense platforms around Earth, Mars, and the major moons. Ground-based planetary defense cannons that can target threats in deep space. Fighter wings ready for rapid deployment. We are as ready as we can be, sir. Against 250 Vrexian ships? Our technology is superior, Perry reminded him. Morrison's 3 destroyers face 68 ships and won decisively. The Vrexians rely on numbers and brute force, but their technology is stagnant. We have been advancing for 3,000 years in isolation. Shield technology, weapon systems, tactical coordination, everything we have is generations ahead of theirs. Hughes wanted to believe that, but he was old enough to know that numbers mattered. Technology could be overcome by sheer overwhelming force. Start mobilizing all defensive assets. I want every ship ready for combat, every platform armed, every fighter pilot on standby, and get me Commander Morrison the moment he arrives. We need to understand exactly what we are facing. Morrison reached Earth 36 hours later. He barely had time to shower and change before he was summoned to Admiral Hughes's office. Lieutenant Grace Holland accompanied him, her expression carefully neutral. "Commander," Hughes said as they entered, "you have put us in a difficult position." "I know, sir," Morrison replied. "I exceeded my orders. I revealed humanity to the galaxy. I started a chain of events that cannot be stopped. But 12 million people are alive because of it. I would make the same choice again." Hughes studied the younger man for a long moment. "I believe you would. And for what it is worth, I agree with your choice. But the Council is less understanding. They want you relieved of command." Morrison felt his heart sink, but he kept his expression steady. "I understand, sir." "Fortunately for you," Hughes continued, "the Council does not have time to replace you. The Vrexians are coming. A massive fleet headed our way, and I need every experienced commander I have to defend Earth. So you are getting a promotion instead of a court-martial. Congratulations, Admiral Morrison. You just became the commanding officer of the Third Fleet." Morrison blinked in surprise. "Sir?" "You wanted humanity to step out of the shadows," Hughes said. "You wanted us to take action. Well, now we have no choice. The Vrexians are bringing the war to us. We need to show them that humanity is not an easy target. Your 3 destroyers are being reinforced with 30 more ships. Cruisers, destroyers, and support vessels. Your mission is to intercept the Vrexian strike force before it reaches Earth." "You want us to meet them in deep space?" Holland asked. "I want you to show them what happens when you threaten humanity," Hughes said. "We spent 3,000 years preparing for this. Our ships, our weapons, our tactics, all designed to protect Earth from any threat. Now we find out if all that preparation was worth it." Morrison straightened. "When do we launch?" 48 hours. That gives us just enough time to intercept them in the outer belt, near where Neptune's orbit would be. We fight them there, far from Earth. If we win, we send a message that humanity cannot be intimidated. If we lose, Hughes did not finish the sentence. "We will not lose," Morrison said firmly. "I have seen their tactics. I know their capabilities. They are strong, but they are predictable. They rely on overwhelming force and expect their enemies to break under pressure. But we are human. We do not break," Hughes nodded. "Then prepare your fleet, Admiral. And Kyle, one more thing. Captain Lisa Bernard of the Coalition ship Horizon has requested permission to bring Coalition reinforcements to assist in Earth's defense. She says humanity saved her people, and now she wants to return the favor. The Council has approved her request. You will have 20 Coalition ships under your command as well." Morrison felt a surge of hope. Coalition forces would be useful, but more than that, it showed that humanity was not alone anymore. They had allies now, friends who were willing to fight beside them. "Thank you, sir," Morrison said. "We will not let you down." As Morrison and Holland left the office, Holland spoke quietly. "Admiral, huh?" "That was fast. Battlefield promotion," Morrison said. "In other words, Hughes needs someone to take the blame if this goes wrong. Or take the credit if it goes right," Holland countered. She had been promoted to commander and would serve as Morrison's second-in-command. "Either way, we have a fleet to organize and a war to win." "No pressure?" Morrison smiled grimly. The Vrexians were coming with everything they had, expecting to crush humanity before they could become a real threat. But Warlord Crix did not understand what he was facing. Humanity had spent 3,000 years preparing for this moment. They had learned from their mistakes, refined their technology, and trained for every possible scenario. And now they would show the galaxy that legends could be real, and that humanity was done hiding in the shadows. The combined human and coalition fleet hung in the darkness beyond Neptune's orbit. 53 ships arranged in a defensive formation that Admiral Kyle Morrison had designed personally. The Earth Defense Force contributed 33 vessels, ranging from the heavy cruiser Defiance to the nimble destroyers of Morrison's original reconnaissance group. Captain Lisa Bernard's coalition forces added 20 ships of various classes, their crews eager to repay the debt they owed humanity. Morrison stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the EDS Defiance, watching the tactical displays with Commander Grace Holland at his side. They had been waiting for 3 hours since their long-range sensors detected the Vrexian strike force entering the outer solar system. Enemy fleet dropping out of faster than light in 30 seconds, Holland reported. Confirmed count, 247 vessels. Looks like they lost a few ships to engine failures during the journey. Still, we are outnumbered more than 4 to 1. Numbers are not everything, Morrison reminded her. What matters is how you use them. Status of our forces? All ships report ready for combat. The Coalition crews have integrated well with our tactical network. Captain Bernard has placed her ships in the second-line formation as planned. She understands that our vessels need to take point since our shields are stronger. Morrison nodded. The plan was simple in concept but would require perfect execution. The human ships would absorb the initial Vrexian assault, using their superior shields to weather the storm. Meanwhile, Coalition ships would provide supporting fire and target any Vrexian vessels that tried to flank or overwhelm individual human ships. It was a defensive strategy designed to blunt the Vrexian advantage in numbers. Here they come, Holland said as the tactical display lit up with hostile contacts. The Vrexian fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel in a massive formation, their ships arranged in attack waves designed to overwhelm defenders through sheer volume of fire. At the center of their fleet, Morrison could see the flagship that intelligence had identified as belonging to Warlord Crix himself. It was larger than any ship in the human fleet, a massive super dreadnought bristling with weapons. Morrison opened a channel to the entire fleet. All ships, this is Admiral Morrison. Today the Vrexians came to our home expecting to find an easy target. They came to destroy Earth and make an example of humanity. They forgot one important fact. Humans do not surrender. Humans do not break. And humans protect their own. Show them what happens when you threaten our world. All ships engage. The battle began with a massive exchange of fire that lit up the darkness like a miniature star. The Vrexian fleet opened up with everything they had. Plasma cannons and missile batteries launching thousands of projectiles at the human defensive line. The sheer volume of fire was staggering, enough to vaporize a moon. But the human shields held. Advanced defensive matrices generated by quantum field generators absorbed the impact, dispersing the energy across multiple dimensions. Ship after ship shuddered under the assault but remained intact and operational. Shields holding across the fleet, Holland reported. Average strength at 72%. No critical damage to any vessel. Return fire, Morrison ordered. Weapons free. Target their lead ships. Let us see how they handle our response. The human fleet responded with precision strikes that showed the difference 3,000 years of advancement could make. Railguns fired projectiles at relativistic speeds, guided by targeting computers that could predict enemy movements seconds before they happened. Missile swarms launched with AI coordination, each projectile capable of independent decision-making and evasive maneuvers. The results were devastating. The first wave of Vrexian attackers simply disintegrated under the coordinated assault. 23 ships were destroyed in the opening exchange, their shields overwhelmed by weapons they had no defense against. Another 15 were crippled, dead in space with their main systems offline. Morrison watched the tactical display with satisfaction. They are still fighting like they are facing coalition forces. Mass charges, overwhelming firepower, breaking the enemy through sheer numbers. Holland, shift formation Delta 3. Let us show them something new. The human fleet suddenly broke formation, each ship moving independently in patterns that seemed random but were actually carefully coordinated. The Vrexians, expecting a static defensive line, found themselves facing targets that moved unpredictably, that could change direction and velocity in ways that conventional physics should not allow. On his flagship deep within the Vrexian formation, Warlord Crix watched in growing fury as his carefully planned assault fell apart. His ships were being picked off one by one, their weapons barely scratching the human shields while human weapons tore through Vrexian armor like it was made of paper. All ships, concentrate fire on their flagship, Crix ordered, that large cruiser at the center of their formation. If we kill their commander, the rest will break. 60 Vrexian ships turned their attention to the Defiance, and even human shields had limits. The cruiser shook violently as multiple plasma impacts struck her defensive fields. Alarms sounded across the bridge as shield generators began to overheat. Shields down to 40%, Holland reported, her voice steady despite the emergency. Recommend we pull back and let fresh ships take point. Negative, Morrison said. If we pull back now, it shows weakness. Redirect power from non-essential systems to shields, and prepare to return the favor. Commander Jake Foster, leading the human fighter wings from his cockpit, saw the concentrated fire on the Defiance, and made an instant decision. All fighters, this is Foster. The Admiral needs support. Delta formation, attack run on those concentrated Vrexian ships. Let us pull some of that fire off the Defiance. 200 human fighters, each one equipped with advanced stealth systems and weapons that could threaten even capital ships. dove into the Vrexian formation like sharks into a school of fish. They moved too fast for Vrexian point defense systems to track, appearing out of nowhere to launch missiles and disappear before return fire could lock on. The attack had exactly the effect Foster intended. The Vrexian ships targeting the Defiance suddenly found themselves under assault from multiple directions. Their coordination broke down as individual ships tried to defend themselves from the fighter swarms. "Shields stabilizing," Holland reported. "Foster's people just saved us. Shields back up to 58% and climbing." Morrison allowed himself a slight smile. "Remind me to buy Foster a drink when this is over. All ships press the attack. Focus fire on their command ship. If we take out Crix, their fleet loses coordination." Captain Bernard's coalition ships had been providing supporting fire throughout the battle, and now they pushed forward to join the assault on the Vrexian flagship. Their weapons were less advanced than human technology, but coordinated fire from 20 ships still made an impact. The super dreadnought shuddered under the combined assault. Its shields, designed to withstand anything the coalition could throw at them, began to buckle under weapons that were generations more advanced. Crix watched his shield status displays drop from 90% to 70% to 50% in the span of 2 minutes. "Warlord, we cannot sustain this level of fire," his tactical officer reported. "Our shields will fail within 5 minutes at current rate. We must withdraw." "Withdraw?" Crix's voice was a shriek of rage. "We came here with 247 ships against 53. We have overwhelming numbers. We cannot be defeated by these primitives." "They are not primitives, Warlord," the officer said quietly. "Our intelligence was wrong. Humanity has been advancing for 3,000 years while we have been stagnant, relying on conquered species technology. We are fighting an enemy that is superior to us in every way except numbers, and even our numerical advantage is disappearing." Crix looked at his tactical display. The officer was right. In the 30 minutes since the battle began, the Vrexian fleet had lost 87 ships destroyed and another 43 crippled. The humans had lost exactly 0 ships, though several had withdrawn from the front line with damaged shields. The coalition ships had lost 4 vessels, but they were fighting with older technology. The mathematics were undeniable. At this rate, the Vrexian fleet would be completely destroyed within another hour, while the human fleet would remain largely intact. This was not a battle. It was an execution. "Signal general retreat," Crix finally ordered, the words bitter in his mouth. "All ships withdraw to rally point Gamma. We will regroup and reassess." The Vrexian fleet began a ragged withdrawal, their ships breaking off combat and engaging their faster-than-light drives as quickly as possible. Morrison considered pursuing but decided against it. His mission had been to defend Earth, not to chase the enemy across the galaxy. "Let them go," Morrison ordered. "We made our point. All ships secure from battle stations. Begin damage assessment and rescue operations for any Vrexian survivors willing to surrender." The battle was over. The Vrexian strike force, which had come to destroy humanity, limped away with less than half its original strength. Earth was safe, and the galaxy had learned that humanity was not a legend or a myth. They were real, they were powerful, and they were done hiding.